Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of Psych with Dr. DK. I am so thrilled to be able to be here tonight talking about my next episode, and tonight's episode is strictly focused on anxiety and school. I think oftentimes what tends to happen is that we don't understand how they connect, especially if we were an A student when middle school and we get to high school and all of a sudden we're failing, or if we were great in high school and then all of a sudden started failing really horribly within college. So let's talk about a little bit about what anxiety is. Anxiety is the way that our body is naturally going to respond to a situation. It is telling us that something is not right and our body does not feel okay. This can honestly be triggered by a lot of different things. It kind of depends on your body. It kind of depends on your situation and what you're going through. But oftentimes, it is the body's way of saying, I'm either going to fight or I'm going to run away, the fight or flight mode. It could also be the way of your body saying, I'm exhausted. So, there are several ways to look at anxiety within the body. A lot of people don't understand what anxiety is. A lot of people assume automatically what anxiety is that it is the individual just over worrying about stuff or overthinking or stressing over things that they can't control or putting too much on their plate. Yes, those things can trigger anxiety. They can cause anxiety, but that's not the underlining thing of what anxiety actually is. Anxiety, again, is our body's way of responding to stress. This could be a financial stress that's over time. This could be a worry that's over time. And then sometimes when you're like, I'm good, I don't know why I'm having an anxiety attack, it could be associated to the lack of sleep that you might be getting or the lack of water. Who knows? But what it is that you just start, a lot of people will say like, oh, you're fearing being afraid, or you're being fearful, or you're nervous. Yeah, that might be it. But also too, I know from personal experience, anxiety has also been overwhelming, really. It's just in being in a situation and wanting to get out of a situation. I'm not afraid of the people that are in the room with me. It's just one of those things that I'm feeling so overwhelmed with everything around me. It usually is very extreme for me, and it can last a long time. So when someone's like, oh, you just need to stop being afraid, this isn't something that I woke up with and I was like, hey, I'm just going to have anxiety tonight, or I'm going to just panic in the midst of the grocery store. No, this usually is something that's ongoing. This is usually something where my body is saying, I need to fight or I need to run away. Within school, I have noticed, at least for myself, that it has stemmed in a lot of different ways. So anxiety has not always looked the same way. So what we know is that there are different types of anxiety. So I'm going to adjust in my chair so you guys know I'm real serious about this. With anxiety, there's panic anxiety, there's a phobia, something of being afraid. That is true. There is social anxiety, to where you don't want to be around anybody. There is obsessive compulsive disorder, where it's just you're so obsessed over it. OCD status, you want everything to be perfect. And there's separation anxiety. You don't want to leave your house or even a friend or a family member or a spouse. Anxiety can also go into illness anxiety disorder, where it actually is affected by your health. Like, you're having anxiety because something is wrong with your body. And then there's post-traumatic stress disorder, which is also known as PTSD. And that usually the anxiety follows a really horrible experience. This could be a car accident. This could be seeing someone pass away. It could be just a lot of different things. Sorry, so my eye is twitching and it's like bugging me. You probably can't even see it on the camera, but it's like twitching. So I'm not winking at you guys. It's just twitching automatically. Oh, so there we go. I'm going to stretch my face out. My eyeball is having anxiety right now. That's a joke. That's not serious. But what I've noticed, so let's get back on track. What I've noticed for myself, at least, is when I have had anxiety come into different forms, it usually is for different reasons. Now, within education, I started doing some research just to kind of understand it a little bit different. And what I'm finding is that according to American College Health Association, in the fall of 2018, they did a national college health assessment, and they found that 63% of the students in the US had felt overwhelmed and overwhelming anxiety in the last year. I find that number because of COVID. I have found that number has increased. There has not been a study on it, but I can tell you every single person who is in education, as a teacher, as a student, everyone is overwhelmed. COVID really did us some damage when it came to education. A lot of us were thrown into a platform we weren't used to. Maybe we have a disability where an online format was not the best format to be on, but we were forced to be on this online format. And in the survey, from the same survey in 2018, they also found that 23% had been diagnosed or treated for mental health in that past year as well, which again, I really feel like that number has gone up because of COVID. So putting COVID aside, one of the things that I know with working with students and talking to students and doing research on just different stuff, the reason that anxiety is so high among individuals going to college, this can be of any age. This could be actually in any education, high school, middle school, college, adults going back to school. We see that there is a lot more sleep deprivation of individuals because sleep is, you're not getting to sleep on time. You're not getting good sleep. Your sleep is disrupted the entire time. You could be drinking more soda or caffeine to try to stay awake because you have late nights and early mornings, which 100% happens when you're doing school. You just feel lonely. So you're now starting to go from trying to stay awake to just feeling complete loneliness. And that's associated with mental health as well, specifically within college, within the first couple years of school. The students who are leaving to campus, they might feel lonely for two reasons. Not just because they left home, but they've left their community and all of their friends that they do know are on, maybe in different states or they're on different schedules than they are. And then you also have being in a new setting and a new situation where you're in college for the first time and you're trying to make friends. So loneliness contributes to anxiety as well. And another thing is also the academic factors, is when you are going from what you know to something you don't know. Maybe you were a straight A student in high school and you were able to get anything and everything when it came to education. You had no problems. Every math test you took, you passed. You really didn't need to study, but then suddenly in college, you're really struggling. So something that I really believe in and point out to students, I'm like, look, here's the difference between high school and college. High school, you usually know your teacher for 4 years, or you know of your teacher, or you know someone who has your teacher. You can build a relationship over 2 semesters with that teacher, if not longer. And you have people who are in it with you. You're in the same grade levels. Obviously, you're mixed up a little bit with, freshmen to seniors, but you're pretty much, it's the same campus every single year. You know who your counselor is. You know what your class schedule is going to be ahead of time. You have your friends there. You know you're not doing life alone. And so high school, you tend to build these relationships. You tend to build these long-lasting relationships. And then on the other side is that the teachers are really invested in their students most of the time in high school. It's very rare to see a teacher who just doesn't like students and is just like, I'm here for the cash and leave me alone. I don't want to work with you. It's very rare, honestly. Like, there's a lot of high school teachers out there who just love doing what they do. And they're really there for the students. They're very passionate about making sure students understand and that they can learn. In college, you still have some of that same professor dedication, but you only get 8 to 13 weeks. Let me say that again. 8 to 13 weeks with these people. Maybe some classes are 16 weeks, but let's be real. We know in college, some professors cancel their class at least 3 to 4 times in a semester. So you get like 13 weeks with them. Also, comparing it to high school, in high school, you had your teachers for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. That like just in class, like an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day, which is a good 5 to 10 hours of being with this teacher in a week, just in class. And then you get to see the teacher around campus, and you get to see this teacher multiple times a year. Chances are that same teacher you liked in high school teaches multiple grade levels, so you're able to have them multiple times. But then you get to college, and very rarely is the teacher that you like going to teach multiple subjects or multiple years. You get them for maybe 13 to 16 weeks, and they're there for the hour to 2 hours of class twice a week. So you go from having, 10 hours a week with a teacher to 4 hours, if that? So significantly less. And then they're not there the rest of the week. You only get them twice a week. If you're lucky, you might have that teacher 3 times. But for me, it was always math, and I hated math. So I didn't want to hang out with my math teacher unless I needed to learn how to do math. And who wants to learn how to do math? Not me. But anyway, when you're putting those two factors together, you're significantly less, you're spending less time with your professors in college. Then you don't have a lot of friends that that have the same teachers. You're all on different degree plans. So you're all taking different classes in the sense when it comes to special classes. And then you're having a harder time in school, and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not getting this? And honestly, it's not you. Your brain is processing a new normal from high school to college. It's definitely more rigorous in the content, but the thing is, you're also getting a lot less time with your teachers and a lot less time in the classroom to learn. And so now you put the factor into, you add the sleep deprivation, you add the sleep disruption, you add the loneliness, and then you add the academic factors, and your body and your brain are just like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get this. And I understand. I get it. College is really hard. Education is really hard. And I don't think we acknowledge that enough. I think we just think that college or education in general is supposed to be so easy. But with the thing about cognitive psychology, it's neat because you learn how our brains work. We know that we can take education at spurts, in spurts, and little spurts at a time, and little sections at a time. And you learn how your brain starts to work a little bit. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, take a break. When you are feeling like you are going to fail, take a break to just kind of let your mind breathe. If you're struggling in a subject, one of the things that I suggest is to quiz yourself, have somebody else quiz you, or ask the professor, like get to know your professor, because half the time what it is the fear of failing is because you don't know the material. And if you're able to get to know the material by knowing your professor, you'll be able to understand what they're thinking and how they think and what might be on those exams. So yeah, that's something that I've noticed is just within this realm that, we don't acknowledge that school is hard. Anxiety and school can be directly related. I think it's crucial to understand that they are. And if you're having a hard time right now, I want you to reach out. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to a friend, but just know that you're not alone. I know for myself, my anxiety creates depression. So that's fun. I will have a week of anxiety followed by 2 to 3 days of a depression spout. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. But it is really difficult when it is directly related to me feeling like I'm going to fail. And education, that's happened a lot. I have failed out of classes. I have failed semesters. I have failed and had to retake things. And that's the beauty of, when we come into school, we're like, we have to be perfect. We have to get this right. If we don't get this right, we're never going to get it. Let's reframe that. Let's look at it in the lens of, if I fail, I can retake this. Yes, it sucks that you have to it's going to cost you a little bit of money. But education is not something that we have to look at as, if we don't do this, our whole career is over. And that is why there's so much anxiety linked to education, is that in our head, we are thinking, if I don't get this right, my career is completely over. So if you are having a lot of anxiety, reach out to a friend, talk to them, realize that if you do end up failing a class, if you do end up not doing well on a quiz, if you don't get the material right away, you are not a failure. It is actually helping you relearn something better than it is just to pass the class and not have learned anything at all. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, if you are struggling in your classes, try to get to know your professor, reach out to some students who might be in the class, build the relationship so that you're not also struggling with loneliness as well. And then remember to get some sleep. That's a huge thing, and eat well. Don't go caffeine crazy. Just don't do it. It's not a good idea. Yeah, so I hope those things helped. I hope this conversation helped. I know with education, for me, again, anxiety has always been triggered, and it always followed depression. And I always have felt like I never did enough or was well enough. So you're not alone. Just know that. But if you guys need anyone to talk to, you can always reach out to me. I hope you're back here next week for Mondays at 6 p.m. You can watch Psych with DK for all the psycholo-tea. Have a great night, everybody.